What's going on, YouTube? It's TheSpaceWizard, here for another video, except in this one, we're going to be doing things just a little bit different. One of my goals for Star Wars 2025 was not only to just read more Star Wars books, dive deeper into the lore, create more unique Star Wars videos for YouTube and other engaging platforms for viewers like you to enjoy. And in today's video, and in a couple other videos that I have planned, we're going to be reacting to Star Wars content. Now, whether I agree or disagree with the content being displayed is my own opinion. I encourage you, the viewer, to go check out these channels, click on a couple of their videos, and enjoy the content for yourself. And now, without any further wait, let's dive into today's video. Today's video is brought to you by the Star Wars Skran. Subscribe to his YouTube channel.
So how many characters of that Star Wars family exist today?
Well, today there's over 5,000 characters.
Oh, it's that same picture from all those years ago with that old Lucas quote that is really not important today.
It's very big, and we have lots of novels, lots of comic books, lots of games, and the movies and TV series, and there's a whole world of Star Wars now that didn't exist.
Star Wars definitely became larger than George Lucas ever intended it to become. And even throughout the whole creation of all these new works into Star Wars, figuring out where they fit in the story was always a challenge for the Lucasfilm Story Board and the directive up there that helped George Lucas try to get everything in order. One of those same people still actually works at Lucasfilm today, which is Leland Chee, as well as people like Pablo Hidalgo and Dave Filoni are all major contributors into help shaping the Star Wars story and the future of the Star Wars narrative for George Lucas and, well, now Disney.
Well, I always said I wasn't going to do any more, and that's true, because I'm not going to do any more.
George Lucas already knew he was done. He had no plans to have any sort of sequel material come out for Star Wars, except for maybe the Journal of the Whills, but that's a different story. So, George Lucas hired a bunch of writers, had a bunch of people create different storyboards, and thus the expanded universe was born.
But that doesn't mean I'm unwilling to turn it over to Kathy to do more.
The worst PR move I think that they ever made was just doing away with Star Wars Legends and rebranding it in its own little category of Star Wars and making it have nothing really to do with Star Wars anymore. I think that hurt more than anything.
I have story treatments of 7, 8, and 9 and a bunch of other movies, and
I specifically remember that time frame around 2010 leading up to the sale and the acquisition of Star Wars by Disney. It definitely was a exciting time because they were always talking about different Star Wars projects that would be coming to Star Wars, like Star Wars 1313 and other canceled things that we never really got to make light of day of. A lot of the content that we never got to see that George Lucas was creating, we've been told has gotten repurposed into some of the newer stories or re-embellished for the audience, if you will.
And obviously we have hundreds of books and comics and everything you could possibly imagine.
What I have a hard time imagining is why anybody would want to close themselves off from so much of that knowledge. Kind of reminds me of the sequel trilogy, Luke Skywalker closing himself off from everything because he just doesn't care anymore. And why do we find out he doesn't care anymore? Because a decision he made scorns him.
So, I sort of moved that treasure trove of stories and various things to Kathy, and I have complete confidence that she's going to take them and make great movies.
I'm not going to pretend that all the Star Wars movies that's come out under Disney have not been impressive. Sure, some of them had a little bit of lackluster charm to them, and I might not have agreed in the direction that they went, but they are all pretty stunning movies. Even all the different TV shows coming out from Star Wars has very different, captivating things that draw different audience members to them.
The ones that I sold to Disney and everything, they came up to the decision that they didn't really want to do those, so they made up their own. So it's not the ones that I originally wrote.
Nobody's going to be completely happy with the quality of anything, really, nowadays, it seems. I mean, if George Lucas is so displeased about Star Wars, why doesn't he step back up and make another Star Wars movie or try to take the reins back?
They've, the original saga was about the father, the children, and the grandchildren.
I gotta make an honest joke here. If we're talking about the saga's about the father and the children. The grandchildren get brought in the novels. They're not technically in the saga. They're in the expanded universe saga of Star Wars.
And I mean, that's not a secret to anybody. It's even in the novels and everything.
I mean, it is a secret to those folks who never read the novels, but that's not really what we're talking about, I guess.
I said all I wanted to do was tell a story of what happened. You know, it started here and it went there, and it's all about generations, and it's about, you know, the issues of fathers and sons and grandfathers, and it's a family soap opera.
Hot take, but episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 are still a family soap opera. Seriously.
They decided they didn't want to use those stories. They decided they were going to go do their own thing, and so I decided, fine, but basically I'm not going to try to. They weren't that keen to have me involved anyway, but at the same time I said, I'm not going to, if I get in there, I'm just going to cause trouble.
I mean, that's like crying over the spilled milk. If you're really going to be upset about it, you shouldn't have sold Star Wars. At the end of the day, you shouldn't have sold Star Wars. But these are just hot take clips from different interviews. They aren't the full context of what's actually going on at the end of the day, too.
Because they're not going to do what I want them to do.
One of the biggest reasons George Lucas got away from Star Wars was because he lost control of it and he didn't really have a direction to go from there. I mean, just look at where we're at today, where streaming is at an all-time high in demand, and people want content faster and faster than it's even able to be delivered for you. Seriously, we're all waiting for Star Wars to get out of the Season 1 TV show phase already. Only Mandalorian's been able to do it, and only Bad Batch has been able to do it. And if we're going to be fair and honest, Star Wars Visions, which is Disney's own weird version of Star Wars Legends, also did it.
So, and I don't have the control to do that anymore, and all I would do is muck everything up. So,
random thought in the middle of watching all of this. Why didn't you just do what you did for 2003 Clone Wars for the expanded universe and create all these different animations surrounding those storytelling arts and cement them into history?
So, and I don't have the control to do that anymore, and all I would do is muck everything up.
To be fair, people said he screwed up the prequels for a long time. People hated the prequels for 10 years. I remember being a Star Wars fan in that period, and it was really hard to enjoy Star Wars because of people's opinions about the prequel.
So I said, okay, I will go my way, and I'll let them go their way. And these are my kids.
I always disliked when he described it that way. I understand, yes, it is his children, but why would you sell your children? That's just terrible.
I loved them. I created them. I'm very intimately involved in them, and obviously to
and
sell
you
them
sold
off.
them.
I love how Charlie Rose just sees right through the facade of George Lucas. Straight to the point. You sold your kids.
I sold them to the white slavers that take these things and
Okay, but I mean,
Now, if George Lucas really thought that, why would he want to invest and continue investing in that ideology? It's not that baffling of a concept to understand. He continues to do business because he makes money at the end of the day by doing nothing.
I've kind of lost control of Star Wars.
After creating a $3.3 billion empire and having many beloved titles that fans actually adore in the year 2025, how did you lose control of Star Wars?
So it's going off in a different path than what I intended.
So at that point, why wouldn't you try to course correct Star Wars like Disney did? I mean, they went about it in a way that not many people agree with by canceling a bunch of beloved stories from the expanded universe and making it no longer important or linear to canon at all. But obviously, the further we talk about this, the more options that we ourselves could come up with for George Lucas.
But the first 6 are very much mine and my philosophy.
And that was very true. They were his philosophy. And then he sold them.
And I think that philosophy sort of goes beyond any particular time, because
something I've learned from growing up and watching other people grow up is that everybody learns differently. So your philosophy will change at the end of the day for the future generations of people coming into these ideas, because just like history is written by the victor. And right now, I don't think George Lucas is the victor.
it's based on history, it's based on philosophy, it's based on a lot of things.
We could go on all day about how a lot of these different elements that Lucas just mentioned are still present in Star Wars today in the different shows and movies that we're viewing from Disney.
The Force, nobody understood the Force. Nobody, what they do is, and then they started other ones when I sold the company, and they,
a lot of those ideas that were in there sort of got lost.
This coming from the guy who changed the mantra and ideology a few different times along the way of his journey as well. Also, I can't really tell if he's just lost or sounds defeated or doesn't have a purpose in doing this interview, but it just doesn't feel Lucasy. I guess it feels like a bunch of excuses for somebody who's already said that they lost control. Oh, that's it. That's the end of the video? Well, alright then. So what you're wanting me to take away from that video is based on all those different quotes of George Lucas, Disney Star Wars is not Star Wars. With this one, I think I'm going to have to disagree. I think Star Wars is still Star Wars. Just like when we sit down and read an expanded universe novel, that's another author's interpretation of the Star Wars story written in their own perception of their book that they're writing. Did George Lucas ever read those Star Wars stories? A few of them? Probably. All of them? Definitely not. He's even said it, that he did not really know that world of Star Wars all too well. He just had a resource guide for it on his desk. So in that same likeness and mindset, it doesn't matter who the producer or the executive producer is or who the writer is. Star Wars is still being developed to be Star Wars. And I think everybody is honestly missing that very big point. That's all the time I got for this one. Make sure you check out Star Wars Skran's channel, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video.